EduVerse PD podcast, brought to you by ProEd Education Solutions, your on-the-go professional development. Welcome to the EduVerse PD podcast. In today's episode, Andy and Liz take on a topic every educator of teenagers knows all too well: how to move beyond discipline and truly inspire these young learners. Drawing on Thomas Sims's article, Beyond Discipline, Inspiring and Guiding Teen Learners, featured in EduVerse Newsletter, issue 26. This conversation explores what it really takes to connect with teens, build trust, and guide them toward meaningful growth. Let's join Andy and Liz as they unpack practical ideas and fresh perspectives on working with one of the most dynamic groups of learners in our classrooms.
So I want you to just take a second and think back to your own teenage years.
Oh boy.
If that's a little too painful, maybe just picture the highly energetic, sometimes totally unsettled teenagers you might be interacting with today.
Yeah, that wild defiance, the sudden mood swings.
Exactly, the highly questionable risk-taking. But what if all of that wasn't inherently a discipline problem? What if it's actually just, a developmental perfect storm?
And neurobiological chaos, really.
Which is exactly what we're getting into today.
Welcome back to the EduVerse PD podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and alongside me is our expert guide, Liz. We are looking at a stage of life where young people are just desperately trying to form their own identities.
And dealing with immense stress.
Oh, absolutely. Academic stress, social stress, plus this growing, almost visceral desire for independence. So bringing a room full of teenagers into focus when all of that is happening under the surface is, well, it's notoriously difficult.
We are exploring a super practical article called Beyond Discipline, Inspiring and Guiding Teen Learners.
By Tom Sims, right?
Yes, exactly. And our goal here is to really extract the exact techniques you need to turn that predictable classroom chaos into a safe, productive environment where these teens actually thrive.
And Sims brings such a fascinating perspective to this. And he's been teaching English across a wildly diverse set of environments. We're talking traditional schools, private language centers, online platforms.
So he's seen it all.
Basically, yes. He's seen how universal teenage behaviors play out across totally different cultural and structural settings.
Which is huge, right? Because it strips away those localized assumptions.
Exactly. It reveals the core psychological needs of the adolescent learner. And Sims argues that the absolute baseline before you do anything else is establishing a secure, predictable foundation.
Before you can even attempt to inspire them.
Right. You have to project authoritative stability right from the very first interaction.
So what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it's the physical stuff first. Deliberate eye contact, grounded posture, and using a measured, confident speaking voice.
See, I feel like the natural assumption is that teenagers just hate rules and want total anarchy.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the underlying mechanism here is actually the exact opposite. Because they're experiencing so much internal turbulence, hormonal shifts, identity crises, they actively crave external predictability.
The world inside their head is chaotic, so the environment outside needs to be an anchor.
Right. So when a teacher establishes clear rules early on and upholds them with absolute consistency, they're providing a structural safety net.
And that consistency is what actually removes the emotional charge from discipline.
Give me an example of that.
Well, think about lateness. If a student walks in late and the teacher reacts with visible frustration one day, but then just ignores it the next day,
the student interprets that as a personal attack.
Exactly. It's based on the teacher's mood. But if lateness is handled the exact same procedural way every single time, no raised voice, no public shaming, just the protocol,
then it becomes policy.
Yes. The student quickly learns it's a matter of policy, not some personal vendetta against them.
It's like, okay, think of a guardrail on a really winding mountain road.
Okay, I like this.
That steel barrier isn't there to ruin the scenic drive, right? Or to restrict the driver's freedom.
No, it's to keep you from falling off.
Exactly. It's there to make the driver feel secure enough to keep moving forward without that constant, terrifying fear of driving off a cliff. The strictness actually provides the psychological safety you need to relax.
That's a great way to look at it. But finding that exact sweet spot is where a lot of educators really struggle.
Well, yeah, because how do you remain firm without crossing the line into becoming this, overly controlling dictator?
Right, because no student respects a walkover who lets the room turn into Lord of the Flies. But they respond just as terribly to harsh, rigid control.
It triggers that rebellion reflex.
Oh, completely. Excessive authoritarianism strips away their autonomy, and that breeds deep resentment. total academic disengagement follows.
So true safety comes from balancing that procedural firmness with emotional and social security.
Yes, you have the rigid guardrails, but within those guardrails, you treat students with equitable, unwavering respect.
Because teenagers have these hypervigilant social radars.
They really do. They are constantly scanning the room. Who is favored? Who is targeted? Who's vulnerable?
So creating that emotionally safe environment requires you to be really observant.
And deeply flexible within your established structure. Some students might have specific learning or behavioral needs, and you have to make thoughtful, quiet adjustments for them.
Without broadcasting it to the whole room.
Exactly. And you absolutely cannot let peer mistreatment slide. You have to monitor those microinteractions and address bullying or exclusion the second it materializes.
But doing that publicly often backfires, right?
Almost always.
Yeah, if you loudly call out a teenager in front of their peers, their fight or flight kicks in.
Because their social standing is under threat.
Right. So the text points out that something as simple as pulling a student aside for a quick private chat after class that completely neutralizes the threat.
It prevents a minor tension from blowing up into a massive face-saving conflict. And that's how you shape the culture. Discipline handles the boundary violations, but positive reinforcement actually builds the culture.
Like praising effort.
Yeah, recognizing a slight improvement in focus, explicitly praising respectful conduct, sometimes rewarding them with small privileges.
Yeah.
It subtly reinforces the exact environment you want.
But, a predictable classroom can get pretty sterile if we just stop there.
It can, yeah.
Because once they know they're safe, their very next need is feeling seen. Structure isn't enough to spark genuine engagement. So how does Sims suggest moving from just procedural safety to actual human connection?
Well, the very first step is modeling. A teacher has to become the living example of the behavior they want from the room.
And the most critical one is emotional regulation.
Absolutely. The teenage prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that handles impulse control, is still under heavy construction.
Right, so they literally don't have the biological hardware to stay calm under intense pressure.
Exactly. So when things get heated, they are subconsciously looking to the adults to borrow their regulation.
Wow, borrowing regulation, I love that.
It's true. If a student acts out and you immediately escalate, yelling or showing frustration, you are validating the chaos.
You're telling them chaos is the appropriate response.
Right. Remaining calm, lowering your voice, acting totally unbothered. That's how you demonstrate what regulation actually looks like.
And that modeling has to extend to empathy, too.
Definitely. You show empathy by truly listening without immediately formulating your rebuttal. Teenagers are highly attuned to whether you're actually hearing them or just waiting for your turn to enforce compliance.
Even basic manners play a huge role here, right?
Huge. Saying please, showing genuine gratitude, keeping a courteous tone. They aren't just pleasantries. They're micro habits that constantly reinforce how people in that room should treat each other.
Which directly fuels building rapport, because cooperation with teens is all about trust.
Entirely. When a student feels genuinely known as a complex individual, not just, a metric on a rubric, they become way more willing to accept your guidance.
And Sims suggests tapping into their niche interests to do this.
Yeah, finding out they're invested in a local sports match, or asking about a coding project or a popular artist they admire.
You also have to share appropriate glimpses of your own life, right?
Right. A brief story about a hobby or a minor mistake you made over the weekend, it steps you down from that pedestal of distant authority.
It makes you human.
Exactly. And it makes the lessons feel more grounded. Sims emphasizes relevance, like using sports for a math problem or emerging tech in an English lesson.
Okay, but I have to push back here.
Go for it.
If we are constantly trying to force pop culture or slang into a math lesson just to be relevant, aren't we in huge danger of falling into a cringeworthy trap? I mean, teenagers possess an elite phoniness radar.
All the best of the world.
Yeah, so if a teacher starts using current slang to seem cool, it's going to backfire horribly.
It will. But the distinction here is authenticity. Sims isn't advocating for you to pretend to be their peer.
Okay.
You are not adopting their slang. It's about authentic validation. Incorporating their passions isn't a cheap gimmick. It communicates a genuine adult respect for their world.
Ah, I see.
Showing authentic curiosity builds the trust they need to feel safe enough to take academic risks.
So you don't have to speak their language, you just have to prove that you value it.
Exactly.
And once that trust is locked in, we hit this fascinating pivot, because a really common trap is assuming that a safe environment means an easy one.
Yes, and that is a massive mistake.
Right, because teens face such intense pressures today, the adult instinct is often to alleviate stress by lowering the bar.
But lowering expectations out of pity secretly communicates a lack of faith in their abilities.
It's detrimental.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining high, achievable standards is the ultimate expression of belief in their potential.
It tells them they're capable of perseverance even when they doubt themselves.
Exactly.
It makes me think of weightlifting. You don't help someone get stronger by constantly rushing over and taking weights off the bar the second they start sweating.
No, you definitely don't.
You just spot them properly. You stand behind them so they don't get crushed, but you force them to use their own muscles to lift it.
I love that analogy. And to facilitate that heavy lifting, Sims advocates for collaborative, complex projects.
Seeking them out of passive consumption.
Right. Designing a community campaign, creating a short documentary, solving a real-world problem. These simulate adult challenges.
They force them to plan, to communicate through disagreements.
And when they navigate a multi-step challenge and produce something tangible, the surge in self-efficacy is profound.
But any conversation about real-world problem solving has to address the elephant in the room: technology.
Oh, yes.
Because they live in a hyper-connected world. And Sims notes that digital tools can increase engagement by mirroring their actual environment.
We're talking collaborative workspaces, online polling, digital discussion boards.
Okay, but again, I've got to push back.
Let's hear it.
We all know screen time is an exhausting battle. Given how distracted we all are by screens, aren't we just inviting chaos into the classroom by intentionally adding more technology to the mix?
Well, it becomes chaos if the tech is used as a pacifier.
Just to keep them quiet.
Right. But Sims emphasizes purposeful use. It's about tying specific tools to clear learning objectives.
So teaching digital literacy.
Yes, and information management and virtual collaboration, skills they absolutely need for the modern workforce.
Which means you have to set incredibly strict parameters.
Absolutely. You need crystal clear boundaries regarding device use, time limits, strict rules on which apps are permitted, and clear consequences for misuse.
The tech serves the learning outcome, and the moment it doesn't, the privilege is gone.
Precisely.
So all of this, the guardrails, the emotional regulation, the high expectations, the tech boundaries, it's all driving toward one ultimate endgame.
Yes, Sims makes a really profound point here. The real goal isn't compliance.
It's preparing them for the autonomy of adulthood.
Because compliance only works when the authority figure is in the room. True maturity happens when they internalize that their actions have real consequences.
And when you trust them with genuine responsibilities, they take it seriously.
Because their contribution actually matters.
Like giving them classroom duties.
Or scaling it up, making someone the project manager for a week. They track timelines, ensure equitable work, mediate disputes.
But the most powerful mechanism is giving them autonomy through choice.
Yes. Providing choices shifts the dynamic from a mandate to a partnership. If you just assign a single, rigid format for an assessment, they view it as an imposition.
But if you let them choose, like write an essay, design a presentation, record a podcast, shoot a video, you change their relationship to the work.
It becomes personal.
It's like the golden rule of surviving a family road trip with teenagers.
Oh, do share?
If you let them pick the radio station or control the playlist, they're significantly less likely to complain about the drive.
Because they have some control over the dashboard.
Exactly.
And when they are involved in the decision, they weigh options, assess their own strengths, and take ownership. Those are the executive functioning skills they'll need forever.
Independence, self-awareness, self-reliance. This ties right into how we teach respect, too.
It does. At this stage, they're solidifying habits that dictate how they'll act in universities or corporate workplaces.
And Sims says we shouldn't just demand respect. We have to explicitly discuss why it matters for their future.
How professional communication opens doors. And lecturing them on the moral virtues of respect rarely works.
Right.
You have to invite them to define what respect practically looks like.
Which leads to co-creating class agreements, having them discuss hypothetical conflicts and how to handle them.
Yes.
But wait, practically speaking, why go through that messy process? Why not just hand them a printed syllabus on day one with the rules?
Because handing them a printed list triggers that rebellion reflex. When they feel dictated to, they look for loopholes to protect their autonomy.
So by having them co-create the rules.
You hack their psychological need for control. They debate the practical value of the rules. When they write the contract, they own the culture.
So they follow the rules willingly because they help design them.
Exactly. It's self-governance, not compliance.
That is such a brilliant shift in perspective. And as we wrap up, I want to zoom out to Sims in conclusion. Because managing teenagers is never just about curriculum delivery.
No, you are actively guiding them through one of the most volatile stages of human development.
They won't be teenagers forever.
Right. And 10 years from now, they won't remember the specifics of a math formula.
But they'll remember who helped them grow.
Absolutely. They will remember the adults who made them feel secure and respected their emerging identities.
It's incredible. So the biggest takeaways here are somewhat counterintuitive. True freedom requires rigid guardrails for safety. Validating their niche interests builds real trust. And you never lower expectations, you just increase their autonomy.
It's highly demanding work, requiring endless patience. But helping them navigate their chaos to become responsible adults is undeniably vital.
So to leave you with a final thought to mull over today, we know teenagers subconsciously mirror the emotional regulation of the adults around them. So the next time you're facing a defiant, escalated teen, ask yourself, how might adjusting your own immediate reaction, like taking just one deep, visible breath, completely alter the dynamic of that conflict?
It's a powerful thing to consider.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on the EduVerse PD podcast. Take these insights, apply them to the young learners in your life, and we'll catch you next time.
What an insightful discussion. Thank you, Andy and Liz, for shedding light on how we can better understand, inspire, and guide teen learners beyond traditional discipline. If you'd like to explore more, be sure to read Thomas Sims's full article, Beyond Discipline, Inspiring and Guiding Teen Learners in EduVerse Newsletter, Issue 26. Visit our website to download the full issue at www.proed.com.vn/eduverse. And remember, every classroom story matters. If you have strategies, experiences, or reflections to share about working with teenagers, we invite you to contribute to EduVerse and join a global community of educators learning from one another. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to welcoming you back in the next episode of the EduVerse PD podcast, brought to you by ProEd Education Solutions.